Hey, everyone. It's Dr. Tamara Beckford with Your Karen Docs. That's right, where we bring you all this health and wellness info so that you can be empowered and take charge of your health. But we have a great segment, which I'm always super excited to bring in, which is our Your Karen Docs, Docs Who Cares. That's when we bring doctors from all over the world on, and they're going to drop a lot of gems about health and wellness tips. And the biggest part is that they're going to leave their info here. So if you want to be a patient or a client of theirs, you know where to find them. Today, we are heading over to the JA. Yes, one of my favorite places. Why? That's where I was born. Woo! Yes, we're heading to Jamaica, where I am bringing in one of my family friends. Yes, big up. Yes, all my JA Massive. Yes, you have a gem right there on the rock. So I'm going to give you a little bit of what's going on with Dr. Tristi Edwards. So Dr. Tristi Edwards, she's a graduate of the University of the West Indies in Jamaica. And she not only did that, but she went over to the UK and she did dermatology at Cardiff University. She is the president, CEO, founder of Temple Dermatology in Mandeville, Jamaica. All my people, welcome Dr. Tristi Edwards. Woo! Yes, Dr. Tristi. Woo, you're bringing it over here. How are you?
Hi, I am doing very well. It's raining cats and dogs here in Jamaica, but I'm in high spirits. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Wonderful. We're doing well here too. So we are super excited to bring you on. Why? Because you're going to be talking about the skin. And if that's one thing that all of us have is skin. Yes, we do. And in addition to that, we're going to be dropping this during the winter time when all of us here who are in anywhere with dry weather. I mean, in the US, it might be the winter cold. Anywhere else in the world, if you have dry weather, all of this info is going to be applicable to you during that time. So, Dr. Tristi, please drop some knowledge on us. Talk about, first of all, let us know about the skin. Let us know how is the skin is, how does it work? And then you're going to drop some gems on us and how to keep it looking great during this dry weather. Go ahead.
Right. So, as many of you may know, the skin is the largest organ, and sometimes we take that for granted, but it is the largest organ, and we definitely could not survive without it.
Yeah.
It protects us from the elements, from pollution, from irritants. It's just a wonderful structure that it helps us with detoxifying our bodies when we sweat. It keeps us cool. If you are exposed to harsh weather, the underlying structures, your deeper organs are protected because there is a barrier there to keep us fully covered, right? So the skin has many roles and it has different layers. It's actually a part of the immune system. It's like the first response. So if you have the army, you have the men who have to go out on the front line. The skin is really that guy who you have to get through me before.
Right? Exactly.
The skin is that guy, right? So super, super important. And there are certain things that can compromise the skin barrier. Dryness of the skin is one of those. There is an analogy that I always use with my patients who suffer from dry skin. So I always say, imagine that the skin is a dirt road and the rain falls on it and then the sun comes out the next day and it gets really dry. Sometimes you'll see cracks in dried mud. The skin is kind of like that. So when it gets dry, there are microscopic spaces between. So it's not sealed off. And that way, irritants, preservatives, fragrances, and all of those things can enter into the skin. And the immune system gets triggered off, and it can be chaos, especially for persons with eczema, psoriasis, and all sorts of other inflammatory skin conditions. So that's just dryness alone is a huge factor that can aggravate a lot of skin conditions.
Wow. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think is so important for us to highlight that
Yeah.
number one, the skin is an organ. We always think that all of our organs are on the inside. This beautiful thing is on the outside. So it's an organ. It is our first line of defense, and it is protecting us on the inside. So all our other organs on the inside, the skin is protecting it. So therefore, like we said, when we have that dry skin and there's a crack, ooh, now we have an opening, and that barrier is broken. So
Like the
now
weakest
let's
link.
absolutely. So now what are some of the ways that, that one who does have dry skin, this eczema, these psoriasis that's flaring its ugly head in that dry weather, that they can protect themselves?
Right. So I do have some dry skin tips that I give to everyone, but especially my eczema patients, psoriasis patients with extremely dry skin, because I may be able to get away with certain things because I'm not predisposed to those conditions, but it's so essential. Keeping the showers short. There are a lot of persons who spend 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes in the shower and they're showering.
I'm saving the world and I'm coming up with great ideas in the shower.
Yeah. Some of the genius ideas come up in the shower, but if you have dry skin, you got to make the ideas come up outside of the shower because it's going to aggravate the condition, especially if you're one of those persons who likes a nice, hot, steamy shower. That's really not recommended if you have dry skin because hot water it's almost like a degreasing effect. And that's why a lot of the times we wash our greasy dishes in hot water because we're trying to cut all of that grease. Now with the skin, we don't want that. If you have dry skin, you want to be holding on to as much of the oils, sebum on the skin as possible. So that's one thing that really, really aggravates dry skin. And a lot of people don't realize. So
this is great info.
Keep the showers 5 minutes. I usually say 5 minutes or less. Definitely don't go over 10 minutes. Lukewarm to cool water if you can tolerate it. So that's one thing. Another thing is just looking at the soap that you're using. Here in Jamaica, a lot of people love the Irish Spring soap and those very sudsy soaps that make you so squeaky clean and they smell so good. If you have dry skin, those are not good for your skin. Yes. Because again, it's like a detergent kind of effect. It just gets rid of all the grease. That's why you get this squeaky clean feeling, and it's absolutely not a good thing for your skin because I've explained already the whole dry skin and irritation effect. Right. What else? So
we've already said we gotta cut those showers short. We gotta be careful with the soap that we're using. Think of our skin as similar effective when you're doing your dishes. So when you think about like everything that helps with keeping my dishes clean and all those, what I do for that, if I have this dry skin and I'm prone to flare-ups from eczema or psoriasis, I should be doing everything opposite.
Yeah, basically. Yes. Right. And the next thing is, this is a secret that works so well. Whether you have dry skin or not, it's just super important to keep the skin barrier intact and moisturized. If we are applying our moisturizers onto super dry skin, it does not penetrate as well as if you apply it to damp skin. So the damp skin sucks up the moisture a lot better. So I usually tell persons right after showering, while your skin is still damp, not dripping wet, but damp, you're going to just lather on a thick, creamy moisturizer from neck downwards, and that will help tremendously. And that moisturizer, we want it to be fragrance-free. As I said, we want it to be thick and creamy. We want it to have as minimal ingredients as possible. The more ingredients, the more possibilities for irritation, because there are a lot of, and allergic contact dermatitis. There are a lot of ingredients out there that are triggering an allergic contact dermatitis picture, and persons are not able to pinpoint which one because there's so many.
Yeah, because it's probably ingredients number 35.
Right. There, a lot of the products that we use every single day have multiple allergens, and it's the norm. They're in baby wipes, they're in our body washes, they're basically everywhere. In the paint in our house, they're everywhere. So that's just one thing we have to be aware of as well. Just keeping the list as minimal as possible. Let me see if I had jotted down anything else. Right, so they're getting a humidifier. A lot of persons have the heating on in the colder months, and the central heating also dries out the skin. It gets rid of the humidity, and that as well aggravates dry skin. So that's something that we have to bear in mind as well. So it's not just one thing that you can do, it's a combination of things that are going to really help you to achieve healthy, nourished, moisturized skin.
Wow. So for those who are just tuning in and you're like, well, what are we talking about? So we're talking about dry skin and how to keep it healthy during the dry season. So your dry season might be winter time if you're in a climate that has the 4 seasons. Yours might just be a dry season for your particular country. So, if you're suffering from extremely dry skin, or if you are suffering from any of these skin conditions that flares up during the dry weather, such as eczema, psoriasis. So Dr. Edwards so far has given us 4 quick tips in order to keep that skin going, keeping it moisturized. Number 1, taking a quick shower. Don't go in for 35 minutes and trying to save the world and coming up with a plan, especially when you get really, really good, and keeping the heat off of your skin. So you're not going in with piping hot water and taking a piping hot 35-minute shower. That's a recipe for disaster. And also keeping in mind the type of soaps that you use, that it's not going to dry out the skin. It's not too many suds. It doesn't have too many ingredients. And as soon as you get out that shower and your skin is still damp, lather with a good creamy moisturizer from neck down. Right? So that we said that once the skin is a little moisturized and you have a cooler or a damp surface, it absorbs all the oils from your creamy moisturizer and helps to decrease all that dryness. And also, actually, we're number 5, the humidifier.
Number 5. So yes. There's certain ingredients that you should be looking out for. So you've probably come across ceramides and hyaluronic acid.
Right.
So ceramides are actually found naturally in the skin barrier. So it's a lipid that really helps to basically glue the barrier together. So in doing that, it prevents us from just losing all the moisture from our skin. And it helps with that barrier function that we spoke about earlier. So it's wonderful. And if you are adding ceramides to your skin, you're getting a great benefit in retaining moisture and just nourishing the skin. Hyaluronic acid, now, this is also found naturally in our skin, and it's a molecule that is able to hold up to 1,000 times its weight in water. So it pulls water into the skin.
Wow.
The thing with hyaluronic acid, though, is that if you apply it to your skin and you're not sealing it in with another moisturizer, the moisture that gets pulled into the skin can evaporate. So you want to put almost like a sealant effect over it to trap that moisture that you pulled up into the skin.
That makes so much sense. So you've done all of this, and poor hyaluronic acid is pulling its thousands of moisture in, and you didn't seal it in, and all of that hard work just get evaporated. So if you're using your hyaluronic acid, please use a sealant afterward. Don't let it do all this work for nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Wow, this is great info. Go ahead. What's some
There
more?
is another ingredient that we all know. It is super affordable. Everyone probably has this in their homes, and that is petroleum jelly. It
Girl.
has so many uses. It's an amazing moisturizer.
Mhm.
And for persons with extremely dry skin, they'll tell you, oh, you know, when I use a lotion, my skin gets dry 15 minutes after. That's because they have a high water content. So you lather it onto your body, it evaporates because it's mostly water, and then you're dry again. But
Absolutely.
with petroleum jelly, it is occlusive. Occlusive meaning it will trap moisture into the skin. So it's like you have a plastic that you put over the skin because you don't want anything to escape from the skin. So it acts in that way. And usually creamy moisturizers that even are water-based but have a less water content, those will be trapped into the skin when you put petroleum jelly on top. So if you want that extra oomph when it comes to hydration and moisturizing, then you're going to want to add something like petroleum jelly. If you have dry, cracked feet, it's amazing. You can use your moisturizing cream. You may want to grab one of those that have urea or lactic acid that will help if there's thick scales and fissuring. And then you lather the petroleum jelly, put socks on, go to bed, wake up with soft, moisturized skin.
Wow. 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 All righty. So look at everyone. We're all exiting this dry weather with beautiful skin because we're getting a lot of tips from Dr. Edwards. Now, one we have we probably have gone over like 8 different ways in order to keep the skin moisturized. And if you have an affinity to dry skin, or if you are suffering from any of those conditions that really aggravates the skin, such as the eczema or the psoriasis, these top tips are for you. Now, do you have any more? Because I have more questions.
Okay, so this is more of just a comment or a statement, but in persons with inflammatory skin conditions like eczema, you know, there's a flare and there's the point in time when you're doing okay on your anti-inflammatory medications, but then you flare again and it's just like an ongoing battle, right?
Absolutely.
Emollients or moisturizers are such a main staple in just preventing flares, because sometimes I don't even have to prescribe so much anti-inflammatory medication if I can get the person to be very religious about applying their moisturizers. If they need to do it 3 times a day, they'll do it. That really helps to prevent the flare, because the same dirt road analogy that I gave, it kind of helps to seal off the barrier, and then the irritants aren't able to penetrate so easily, and you don't get flares as often. So that's just a real life example of how moisturizing your skin can help to prevent eczema flares.
Wow. And it's just really good, as you mentioned, the flares are a lot of times secondary to the penetration, the barrier being penetrated, and therefore causing the trigger, and then the trigger causes the flare. So the goal is to try to have that barrier there as best as possible to prevent the introduction, you know, into starting that inflammatory cycle over and over again. Lathering up with those emollients. So I know that in different countries, you know, you might have different names for the products. Are there any particular, we already talked about petroleum jelly, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows.
Yeah, everyone knows petroleum jelly.
Everyone knows petroleum jelly. Are there any, with the products that you've mentioned, are there any particular names that, that one might think about that says, okay, this helps because it has this particular ingredient?
Mhm. Yeah, so CeraVe, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It's one of those.
Yeah,
I never know if I'm pronouncing it right, but CeraVe, I'm gonna call it that. I think they call it CeraVe because it has ceramides. So most of their products, their lines of products have ceramides. So I've tried their products. They're amazing. That's one that I do recommend for my patients. I think it's a US based brand.
Yeah, it is.
But we have it here in Jamaica as well. My favorite one though, I live by this. I use it on face, body, everywhere. It's one of those things that is thick enough for the body and it won't clog your pores on your face. It's the La Roche-Posay Lipicare Balm. So good. It's very thick and creamy. I believe it has ceramides as well, and it has niacinamide, which is vitamin B3. So an amazing product. A lot of persons are also familiar with Cetaphil or Cetaphil, but that's another one that they tend to have less irritating factors. They don't have a bunch of fragrances. They're thick and creamy options. So using a thick cream, I usually recommend the cream over the lotion for the reasons stated before, with more moisture retention. But Cetaphil is also a good brand. Actually, I'm just realizing that a lot of the things we have in Jamaica are probably from
the US. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no. Cetaphil is one that has been used heavily in my household because both of my boys during their early years, well, they're still early, right? They're like, well, one just turned 5 and the other one is still 2.
Very early.
But they had the eczema. And so we had the petroleum and we also had Cetaphil. So Cetaphil, fragrance free, which absolutely is a staple here to help with them. So yeah. All right. So now one of the things that you did mention is a product that did not clog the skin. And that's when we are going to move on to all of us who are talking about acne. I'm no longer a teenager. Why am I suffering from acne? And then, oh my gosh, now the masks are on and I just have this acne around the area where I wear my mask, where I have to do in order to protect myself because we're still in a pandemic. And now we've moved from calling it mask acne. It even has its own name, maskne. So let's talk about that. So how do we keep our face nice and refreshed and replenished and try to reduce all of this acne?
Right. So mask acne is a pain, I'm telling you. I feel like a lot of us have experienced it, at least in some degree. And first of all, I want to get into why it happens, right?
Absolutely.
So I've been getting a lot of patients saying that I never in my life have I had acne. And then since the pandemic and the mask wearing, I'm getting breakouts. And they're super frustrated and they get very stressed out about it. And the more stressed they get, the more acne develops.
Right?
It's like this snowball effect. But with acne in general, there are 4 main factors, right? So you have excess sebum production. You have dead skin cells clogging up the pores. You have this bacteria, Propionibacterium acnes. I think they changed the name to Cutibacterium acnes. And then the 4th one is inflammation of the skin. So these 4 factors come together to cause acne, basically. Now, with mask acne, you have all those factors, but it's like they're on steroids, right? So the mask wearing is irritating to the skin, especially the surgical mask and the N95 mask. We are talking and they're so occlusive, so they're right on the skin, and then there's friction, and then there's moisture from our breath, and then the heat from our breath. The moisture and the heat under a mask, that's like the perfect environment for bacteria to just multiply and go crazy. So that leads to inflammation. So far we have the bacteria and the inflammation. So the other two factors, sebum. Now our pores produce sebum. That's the oily substance produced by the skin. And when we have on our mask, it has nowhere to go. So it's just stuck under there and it's boiling. So it's like a melting pot of all of these things going on. Then the dead skin cells, so these get deposited on the mask. And especially in persons who are not regularly changing their mask, all of these just go back right into the skin. And especially for those persons who are wearing foundation under the mask because they're trying to cover up the acne, this further clogs the pores, and that's how you get mask acne. So even if you're not wearing foundation, the other factors, it's just very difficult to control. So
yeah, so we have just had the recipe for this bacteria. Is probably just loving it. It's like,
it's
like a spa day for the bacteria. It's like, oh my goodness. So we've gone through the 4. So we have the mask, the friction from the mask, our breath, it's, the heat and the moisture trapped. And then the bacteria is just doing backstrokes in all of this.
Basically.
It's like, oh, I'm getting a nice little relaxing day at a spa. And then in addition to that, we have, like we said, we have friction, and then, we're trying to cover it up with our foundation, and the bacteria is like, oh, give me more because I'm bringing my friends to this party, and here we go. We have
literally a hot mess under the mask.
Absolutely.
But there are things we can do about it, thankfully.
Yes.
Yes. The first thing I recommend is if you're not coming in contact with a lot of persons and you don't need to wear an N95 or a surgical mask, try to switch over to a fabric mask or a cloth mask, because these are more breathable, right? They're not so sucked onto the skin. They're not as occlusive. They absorb moisture as well. So that's 2 things they're addressing. They're cooler, they're absorbing moisture. And you're able to, if you have 2, you can just hand wash at the end of the day, wear the other one and just rotate them. So that way you're actually changing them out every day and not depositing old dead skin cells and sebum back into the skin.
Right.
So the mask that you're using is super important. Not all of us have the luxury.
Further, remember, Dr. Edwards says, if you are not coming in contact with a lot of people. So if you are working in healthcare, you're not going in there with that.
This doesn't apply.
If you work in a COVID unit, this is not for you. If you are going along your merry way and there's barely anyone outside and you're not really in contact with anyone, this is when this is applicable. Okay.
Yes, right. For those who can. And the other tip is you're just gonna be as gentle as possible with your skin, because we're trying to avoid irritation and inflammation. Absolutely. That means we're gonna use mild cleansers. So if you have very oily skin, you probably want to go for a foaming cleanser or a gel cleanser that will help to get rid of some of the excess oil but not dry out your skin. You're going to want to look for ingredients that are keratolytic, meaning something that will get rid of the excess dead skin cells. Something like salicylic acid. Some persons are allergic to salicylic acid, so this goes for the persons who are not allergic.
Absolutely.
There is glycolic acid, and you want to not overdo it. So maybe every other day, every 2 days, but it's just something to help shed those dead skin cells. Ingredients for acne, the same ingredients are going to be helpful because it's still acne. Even though some mask acne is more irritation and almost like an irritant contact dermatitis. So we have to be super gentle. Moisturizing is going to be important for the skin barrier. That helps with the inflammation as well. Benzoyl peroxide, If it's really bad and you're getting those pustules and nodules, your doctor may want to prescribe a topical antibiotic like topical clindamycin to really help to calm that cutibacterium down. In addition with like a retinoid to also help with unclogging the pores and even all the skin, helping with those stubborn pimples. So those ingredients are all super helpful, but you want to keep it very minimal. One thing you do not want to do is to go ahead and pop those pimples. That's going to that's going to make everything a lot worse.
Oh, it's gonna leave those scars.
And it actually a lot of the times drives the bacteria further down into the pore.
What?
And yeah, so what was once a superficial little zit is gonna go down and get red and angry and pustular and become a nodule. And the deeper it goes is the deeper the scarring that you'll get. And we don't want scarring. So that's very important.
Whoa. Did we all just catch that? So we're having this superficial zit from our mask, and we're like, oh, I'm going to squeeze it. And we just push that bacteria way down under the surface to cause worsening acne, because now it's going to inflame, it's red, it's irritated. And then when it scars, the scar's deeper. So we just made it worse. Wow.
Yeah.
So you just gave us a reason to not go around popping these pimples.
Super important. And you know what? We really don't. The other thing is that, like, just keeping foundation under the mask. We don't need it. No one is seeing that half of your face anyway. So you want to do your mascara and your eyeliner and do your brows and fix your hair really nicely. That's all good and fine. But when it comes to under the mask, we are going to try to keep it as simple, just sunscreen. And if you have a topical and acne medication like benzoyl peroxide or your retinoid or your topical antibiotic, that's it. You just keep it very simple. There's no need to add the vitamin C, the niacinamide,
and the hyaluronic acid.
So many. That's not too bad, but we also don't want too much moisture under the mask. So that's why we just try to keep it simple, as simple as possible.
Alrighty, so let's go over the under the mask thing again. So we said keeping it simple under the mask. We're just doing what and what and what. Let's go over that again. For those of us in the back who are taking notes.
Yeah. So it depends. So we can do a cleanser with salicylic acid. We can use our acne medication. So one at a time. In the morning, you could use a benzoyl peroxide medication. And in the evening, maybe a retinoid and just your sunscreen and your moisturizer. That's it. So I was just saying we don't need to add a bunch of extra ingredients like the vitamin C, the hyaluronic acid. It's not bad, but we just don't want too much moisture under the mask.
Under the mask.
Yes, a simple moisturizer, unscented, non-fragrant, gentle moisturizer is just fine. In the morning time, of course, we're going to use our SPF because that's a given. There's never a day when we go without SPF. So yeah, just keep it simple. Change out your mask if you can. Don't pick. Those are the main things, and it will get better if you get the right combination. There is, however, a group of persons who we need to add oral treatment. So oral if it gets really bad under the mask, meaning you're getting a lot of deep, very painful, tender bumps and pustules. We may have to go with oral antibiotics or something called spironolactone, which is something I did some research on when I was with my thesis. That really helps to kind of shut down the oil glands. It combats the androgen that stimulates the oil glands, and thereby it helps with breakouts because that's one of the 4 factors, right?
That oil.
So, or oral contraceptives. Those are the 3 main well, apart from the Roaccutane or isotretinoin, which is a big gun for acne.
Yes.
Yeah. Apart from that one, those are the three I would say that are most commonly prescribed. Yeah. But the Roaccutane is the one that we go for when we're like, oh, no, this is out of control.
Yes.
Or if you're getting severe scarring and we want to like, no, this can't go any further. We don't want you to get disfigured. Or if it's moderate to severe or there's scarring, we're just gonna go for the Roaccutane.
Wow. Alrighty. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I just learned a lot. So we have just pulled out so much info from Dr. Tristi Edwards. All this info coming to us from JA, from Jamaica. We went over how to keep our skin moisturized during the dry weather, and especially some great info for those who do have the inflamed, suffer from any inflamed dry illnesses such as eczema, psoriasis. And then she just dropped all of this knowledge about how to keep our skin looking good underneath this mask, because all of us are in the pandemic and we're wearing masks. So we just went over how to decrease or to get rid of the mask acne. So not only that, she just dropped the gem of what acne is, period, and how we treat acne, and how the introduction of masks is just a perfect recipe for us to develop, even those who have never suffered from acne, how it's a perfect recipe to develop acne and how we can treat this. So now, Dr. Edwards, I mean, you're there, you're doing all of these things. You're helping all your patients during this pandemic. You're, helping them with and dropping info on dry skin, and not just dry skin, also skin that's moisturized, who excess oil, because we talked about that. You gave just a little tidbit on that, and also maskne and so on. If they are doing all of these things, let me find out. We are here. How can we find you to get this help? Because you obviously are very versed and you very, very, very know so much about skin.
Thank you.
How do we find you?
Right. So I am in Jamaica. I'm in Mandeville, and my practice is Skin Temple Dermatology. So that's SKINTEMPLE, Skin Temple Dermatology. I share content on YouTube. My YouTube page is also Skin Temple Dermatology. I'm on Instagram, and it's still Skin Temple Dermatology, but I think my username is Dr. Tristi Edwards.
Okay.
Also on Facebook, Dr. Tristi Edwards. And I actually do online consultations. I do have patients in the US. I don't have prescribing rights in the US as yet, but I do offer Zoom consultations and skincare advice. I do create regimens. I do skincare counseling. And sometimes I may even liaise with the person's GP to get them to discuss with me, and we come up with a plan for the patient if they're unable to come and see me physically. I travel all across Jamaica. So I go to the eastern end of the parish where I'm from, which is the island, which is Portland. And then I also go to St. Elizabeth to offer services once per month.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you can find her if you're in Jamaica. You can find her on the east, and you can find her on the western end, or almost west, right, in St. Elizabeth. And she's also available for those who are listening and you have your primary care doctor. That's what you're saying, the GP, which is general practitioner. Over here in the US, we call that your primary care. She's available for consultation with your primary care to help to come up with a great regimen to help you and to keep your skin flawless. Because if you guys can't tell, Dr. Tristi's skin is flawless right now. If you guys are in Jamaica, or if you're traveling to the Caribbean and you'd like to get in contact with her, just let her know and just contact her. She's Skin Temple Dermatology, SKIN Temple TEMPLE Dermatology. Contact her through her social media handles, and then I'm pretty sure she'll set up an appointment and be able to see you and help take excellent care of you. So Dr. Tristi, you're doing all of this for everybody. What are you doing for fun?
There's a lot to do for fun here in Jamaica. I love the beach, so whenever I'm free, I just take a quick trip to the beach, eat some jerk pork, just eat really good food by the seaside, listen to some music, some reggae music, and kick back and relax. Read a good book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so those of us who don't really have the beach next to us right now, we're not jealous. We are just so happy. No, but absolutely. I mean, who can not love the beach? This has been such great info, and I really thank you for taking the time out and dropping all of this lovely gem here on Your Caring Docs. One of the things I do want you guys who are listening, watching, and those who will be reading the blog is that all of this great info will be available on our Your Caring Docs website. That's Your Caring Docs, www.urcaringdocs. And this great episode is available on our podcast, our Your Caring Docs podcast, Your Caring Docs, URCARING, and you'll be able to find this video on our YouTube channel. And like I said, it's available on our podcast, so wherever you do listen to podcasts, on Apple, on Spotify, Anchor, it is all there, right? Thank you, Dr. Tristi. We'll be dropping.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. I got to vicariously step over into Jamaica just for a little bit. And all my people here who are listening to Your Caring Docs, we all got a little bit of trip to Jamaica. Now we're bringing it back over here. And I am thanking everyone who is listening. Please don't forget to rate this. Give us a 5-star if you really love this info, and let us know if you want to hear more. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckwood with Your Caring Docs. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on LinkedIn. So it's still URCARINGDOCS. I thank you all for listening, watching, and reading, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.